Hey, welcome to Antimedia. That's Ryan, my nephew, the millennial.
And that's Joel, my uncle, the boomer.
And today we are going to solve some of the world's deepest conundrums. Thought we'd do something simple today, something, you know,
Mhm.
uncontroversial, something that, everybody can sort of just sit back and relax and enjoy. So, where did the virus come from? Do, do, do,
Mm.
do.
Which virus are we talking
Oh,
about?
well, can we allowed to actually
TB?
are we allowed to actually say the word? I don't think we are. The crown-shaped virus. There you go.
Yeah. I know which one you're talking
Where
about.
did it come from? And so, of course, for the over the year and a half, there's been all kinds of speculation, all kinds of things that have been labeled conspiracy theories. But these conspiracy theories keep coming back, and then some pretty dang important people start talking about them again. Some
Yeah.
governments are starting to talk about them again. So let's cover the bases here. Where do you want to start with this one?
Well, we can go over some history. I remember they talked about the wet market
Uh huh. Yeah, that's right.
nearby. So, it's nothing better than to, vilify Chinese people for eating different food than we eat.
Okay, but here's the bottom line. Regardless if it's A, escaped from the wet market, or B, escaped from a lab, or whatever, it's still China's fault, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, technically, I mean, if they were letting some sort of weird hygienic conditions happen. But again, all right. But anyways,
Yeah, but anyway, and then it was bats, and then it was pangolins.
yeah, those are cool.
Pangolins.
Little armadillo-like creatures, yeah.
There was a rather inappropriate but funny episode of South Park on this entire issue. Um, I neither condone nor support it, but anyway, and then it immediately when they started tagging the wet market, people went on Google Earth and went, wait a second,
That's
there's a
really
there's a
close.
laboratory. There's a laboratory right next door,
Mm-hmm.
like down the street, practically
Yep,
a block or two away.
that's right.
So that's when it kind of came out that possibly, if you're working on a virus, it's entirely possible that you could catch something and pass it on, right?
Yep, yeah.
So
And it
that's
was
what we're
what
getting
did they
to.
say? It was like 400 meters away, something like that. Something like that.
It's super close. Yeah. So now where we're at now, we're 14 months later. Nothing is confirmed.
Right.
And it's been kind of weird that they don't want to. Every other virus, like, it's very interesting. We call the variants of the virus by the country
Yeah,
that they
so there's
came
the
from.
UK variant and there's the
Yeah.
Brazilian variant and the South African variant, but it's still not the Wuhan virus.
No, for whatever reason. So
Racism. It's racism.
it's racism, even though, what's that West Nile virus? Like,
From the part of the
anyway,
Nile that's in the west.
yeah, the Spanish flu, like,
Ebola is
whatever.
Ebola is also a river.
Yes. So, anyways, we can get past that point. It came from China. We all know it came from China. That part is settled.
There you go.
Where it came from and how it came to be,
So
no
here's
one is 100% certain.
here's the China, here's the Wuhan seafood market, and I forget where the lab is, but it was pretty close. I'll look it up later. All right.
Yeah. So, anyways, so recently it's been kind of interesting because very popular, not popular people, but influential people
Mm-hmm.
have been finally coming out and saying, "Hey, this looks funny. Why aren't we doing, a better investigation
You mean like
into it?"
Congress?
Yeah,
Oh, there it is.
yeah, like
Washington
a lot
Post.
later.
The Congress is finally, and this is dated May the 6th, so just
Yeah.
10 days ago or so.
So this is brand new. This Josh Rogan
Right.
guy has been writing on this, and basically he's claiming that Beijing has spent more than a year covering up the origin and punishing any country that dares call for an independent investigation.
It's true. Australia did that, and they got all kinds of flack.
Well, like, anytime anybody says something about China and Canada, they start slapping tariffs on things
Yep.
and threatening.
Yep. Or kidnapping.
And that has nothing to do with
people.
Wuhan. So, yeah, Australia has been hobbled the WHO to prevent independent COVID-19 investigation. So, yeah.
Well, let me just throw in this Australian news company then while we're at it, because this is Sky News in Australia, and this is what they started reporting just about a week ago.
First tonight, new details from a document produced by Chinese military scientists where they discuss weaponizing SARS coronaviruses 5 years before the pandemic hit. The book was written by People's Liberation Army scientists and senior Chinese public health officials back in 2015. It describes SARS coronaviruses as heralding, and I quote, a new era of genetic weapons. It says they can be artificially manipulated into an emerging human disease virus, weaponized and unleashed in a way never seen before.
All right. Well, that's mainstream media. We're anti-media, but there's some media.
Yeah. So, and because of that, China has ratcheted up their pressure on Australia and targeted their imports of beef, barley, cotton, coal, and wine.
Yeah. But that was before this news article, by the way. That was just from them saying, hey, we're not sure where it came from. We need to do an investigation. So here, but this is Sky News coming up with a whole different ball of wax.
That's a whole different ball of wax. This was back in November. So China has been punishing anybody who says anything about this, right?
Yep. So
now this goes back to, so the newest theory, and I've heard multiple people talk about this, but this is also in the Washington Post article, is that it came from gain of function research. Okay. They've been doing gain of function, which is basically you start testing these viruses and trying to get them to do more stuff. You make them evolve faster.
You make them gain functions, yes. And you genetically manipulate them so they gain functions. It's not much different than what you would do for dog breeding. You would try to gain a particular function in a dog breed. You want bigger ears, smaller ears, bigger teeth, smaller teeth.
It's the same thing we do with genetically modified seeds and wheat and that kind of stuff.
The difference with the virus, of course, is that you're also then gaining the function that it's gaining is making people sicker. That's the gain they're looking for.
Or making it more contagious.
Correct.
And
something along that line. That's right.
So now the interesting thing here is that the U.S., the National Institute of Health, actually banned gain of function research. I think it was back in like 2014, 2015.
Oh, really?
So whenever they kind of ban something in the States, or at least put like a soft ban on it, like we're not funding it anymore, they generally just move it somewhere else and then fund it differently. So if you'd like, we can go to this week, Dr. Fauci, who is one of the people who has spent a lot of his time researching gain of function. If we go back on Dr. Fauci, he was in AIDS research. He's been in this business, we'll call it a business, for a long time. He used to be into this, but anyway, let's go to Rand Paul asking Dr. Fauci about gain of function.
Sounds good.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Do they fund?
Okay, so let me stop right there. Whenever someone gets ultra specific,
watch for the things that he's leaving out. Of what he's saying.
We have never funded ever in the Wuhan lab. That's all he says. He could have said categorically all of China. But no, he said that.
Dr. Barrick,
we do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain of function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain of function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted.
He is not doing it, but if he is, it's by the guidelines. Oh my goodness.
So the story here is this Dr. Barrett guy is working with one of the doctors in the Wuhan laboratory, and it's a partnership that they have that they've been working on for a few years. That's the backstory on that. So he's not doing gain of function research, but if he is, it's according to the guidelines. Wait a second, I thought he wasn't doing it. Anyway,
you don't think inserting a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
you would
not
be in the minority, because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact that people tweet that.
So do you still support sending money to the Wuhan Virology Institute?
We do not send money now to the Wuhan Virology Institute.
Do you support sending money? We did, under your tutelage. We were sending it through EcoHealth. It was a sub-agency and a sub-grant. Do you support that the money from NIH that was going to the Wuhan Institute?
Let me explain to you why that was done. The SARS-CoV-1 originated in bats in China. It would have been irresponsible of us if we did not investigate the bat viruses and the serology to see who might have been
Or
infected.
perhaps it would be
in China.
irresponsible to send it to the Chinese government that we may not be able to trust with this knowledge and with this incredibly dangerous viruses. Government scientists like yourself who favor gain-of-function research.
I don't favor gain-of-function
maintain
research
that
in
the
China.
disease
You were
arose
saying
naturally.
things.
Think about Rand
anyway,
Paul.
the grades from there.
He's a medical doctor. I mean, he may just be a GP, but he's a medical doctor, right? So
I do believe so.
here's another.
Yep.
Here's another. I'm not sure where this clip is, but I'll play this one real quick out of 20.
Yes, we have 11 labs doing it, and you have allowed it here. We have a committee to do it, but the committee has granted every exemption. You're fooling with Mother Nature here. You're allowing super viruses to be created with a 15% mortality. It's very dangerous. I think it was a huge mistake to share this with China, and it's a huge mistake to allow this to continue in the United States. And we should be very careful to investigate where this virus came from.
I fully agree that you should investigate where the virus came from. But again, we have not funded gain-of-function research on this virus in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
There you have it.
All right, so here's the issue. What he's kind of not saying. So first he's like, well, we're not funding the Wuhan laboratory, and then Rand Paul corners him and goes, well, you did fund
Yes.
the laboratory, and then Fauci goes, well, we would be idiots if we didn't fund it because that's where SARS-CoV-1 comes from. Oh, okay, that's fine, that's great. But basically kind of what he's saying isn't that the Wuhan laboratory wasn't doing gain-of-function research and that Dr. Barrett isn't. It's just that his grant wasn't for it.
He wasn't funding it specifically.
Yes. So, but you give money to the Chinese, I will say that not the Chinese in general, say the Chinese government. The chances of them using it for something that you didn't say to use it for, like, do they care?
That's right. Yes.
Like, I don't know that I care. Like, if the government gave me a bunch of money to do something, if I was doing the research and I didn't have particularly fantastic morals about following America's rules, why would I follow America's rules when I could just follow my own rules?
And buy a nice new motorboat. All right, so former CDC director on CNN, I might add.
Yeah, from about a month ago.
More mainstream media. Here's what he says.
I have spent my life in virology. I do not believe this somehow came from a bat to a human, and at that moment in time, the virus that came to the human became one of the most infectious viruses that we know in humanity for human-to-human transmission. Normally when a pathogen goes from a zoonotic to human, it takes a while for it to figure out how to become more and more efficient in human-to-human transmission. I just don't think this makes biological sense.
So in the
All right, there you have it.
Yep.
And of course, CNN was not terribly happy about this interview, but they put it on anyways, which is amazing. And then I'll bring up the article I wrote in a second. You go ahead.
Yeah, so what's interesting here is it kind of makes sense. This is one of the most contagious things that we have. If you might go to one of our old episodes, we had a little bit of a theory on the influenza virus. And clearly, in some areas, they might not be testing for it, and it might still be prevalent in other areas. But part of at least my theory, is that, some of the things that we're doing, including masking and social distancing and dousing ourselves in alcohol, not drinking on our hands, I'm talking about sanitizer, does get rid of a bunch of influenza, right? And at least passing it on. But, that the virus we're talking about doesn't seem to care about those things as much.
Yeah. And also, you still, even going back to our flu episode, you still have countries that did zero masking, zero distancing, and still have zero flu. Tanzania with steam and prayer. It's exactly what the president said. And they had basically zero flu.
But if they're not, travel's down, right? So how are we going to get it from Australia if barely anybody from Australia can get here? And if they do, they have to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And vice versa. We had some teacher friends from Australia that just moved back there in January. right?
Yeah.
So if you kind of eliminate that, it becomes a lot harder to carry it around. We used to just travel all the time.
Yeah.
So it would go from southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere and back and forth every year. Now we've kind of broken that chain, and it's not surprising that I don't think it's 100% disappeared. I think that's us not looking for it as hard. But
here's the
Right.
by the way, here's what CNN put.
it's left.
So CNN changed their headline because before they said former CDC director believes virus came from lab in China. Previously, they had said former CDC director says without evidence that virus came from China. They have removed. This is now my tinfoil hat starting to get back on. CNN removed the without evidence part.
Oh, and then if you go on YouTube and look up this exact thing, you'll get about 20 hits of things like there's that really there's the Now This guys or whatever that are on YouTube and the socials. The Now This guys had one. It's like former CDC director espouses conspiracy theory. Right. No, this is the problem. Is this goes back to a much larger problem of can we let the scientists do science?
Yep.
Instead of they're being 100% corrupted either by the media or what people want them to say.
People don't understand that scientists always argue with each other, like always argue with each other.
Mm-hmm. That's how science is done.
And when you have one group saying, "Oh no, this is the science," and you're not the science, then what you've got is no longer science. You've got politics.
Yeah, you can't. As our good friend that doesn't know us, Vivas always says, politics ruins everything.
Right. So, where did the virus come from?
It came from the
China.
lab.
And I mean, it makes...
I'll just come right out and say it came from a lab. And I don't think it was, but here's the thing. I don't think it was
on purpose. And this isn't, and so don't forget, there was a whole test, pandemic testing run by Johns Hopkins, and I can get your tinfoil hat on, the Bill Gates Foundation, and what was the other one? And they did a whole thing on a coronavirus pandemic. And it was only 5 years ago that they did that entire test. And they literally used the coronavirus for that. Well, I mean, it was a virtual thing, but
it was a virtual thing. Yeah.
I thought that wasn't true because I thought, that's tinfoil hat stuff. And I looked, there it is.
This was always
they actually did do that.
It's been in popular media for decades. Something like this happening, right? So it's only a matter of time, and they've done a really good job of ruining everybody's economies and lives.
Anyways,
and we've overreacted, but that's a whole other show.
Thank you for saying that, young fellow. All right, that's it. We're gonna get banned from the internet for this, but anyways, look at this. I'm just trying to poke while I keep that up there. It was called, I forget what it was called. It was, I had saved it, but I've lost it. But it was called some sort of a pandemic test, like a dry run kind of thing, which is again not a bad idea.
I for one accept all of my medical advice from the great Dr. Gates.
That's right. You know, I used to. I feel so bad. I used to say, he's giving all his money away. I didn't realize that he's giving away with strings attached all over the place. People who have lots of money, always have strings attached.
Like the time he's been consistently explaining why the AstraZeneca vaccine can't be open source and given away for free.
When it can. Of course it can. Anything can.
Yeah.
All right. On that happy note. Anyways, thank you, Nephew Ryan.
Enjoy the day. Thank you, Uncle Joel.
And bye, everybody. Remember, we don't hate the media. We just think that they're deluded at times. There you go.
Yeah. No, I love the media, especially the ones that do their job, but most of them don't anymore.
We love the doing the job ones. So there we go. Bye.
Bye.